Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. It's the Pre-Lockout podcast, round 23, preliminary finals this week. It's sudden death. I'm Tom Sangster and Rob Sutherland is here as well. How's your team shaping up for this week?
Better than my preparation for this show, I have to tell you, yes. Thomas. Now that Tapane has been named, that's all the difference for me. I needed that.
So obviously no trades left for the Ballali Beasts, but are there any stray moves, any crazy pod moves that you're doing this week with your VCs or your reserve or your captain?
Oh, I think I'm playing it pretty straight, mate. VC is going to be Val Holmes, captain's going to be Teddy against the West Tigers. I just think those two make sense. You could probably look at Munster as a maybe, but I don't know. I just think Teddy against the Tigers is going to be a lock.
Two trades for me. I'm not going to use them this week because there was no injuries. There's no reason for me to use them, to be honest.
Look at you just showing off.
Yeah, and on round 25, last round of the season, when COVID hits and everyone's rested, hopefully I'll be able to bust those out and make up a few bits, a few ranking points in that last round.
There might not be anyone to buy though. Like, you know, you'll have all these trades to use and you'll be bringing in, I don't know, Tom Gilbert. No offence to Tom Gilbert, who's a perfectly fine player, but perhaps not the greatest SuperCoach player.
Send through your questions, guys. I'm just loading them up now. We'll get to them in a second. Let's run through the most purchased players. Cameron Murray, number one. I can't talk anyone out of this. He's got the base. The base is 53 in pure base. Plus he's got attacking stats. The only issue is he's got a tough run, but he goes well against good teams as well. So I can't fault this trade.
I'm with you. It's going to be the quickest show ever. It does have a tough draw, but he punched out 90, I think, last weekend. He's put 120 on the Roosters, who he's got coming up in the last round. I think Murray's just the buy. I can't believe I didn't get him at 520. I'm not devastated I got Tapane, but Murray would have been a better go.
Joseph Suaalii is the second most purchased. I like this trade as a bit of a one-hit wonder just for this week. If you've got plenty up your sleeve, playing the West Tigers in what should be good weather at the SCG, I think he could. I mean, the Roosters will win well, and there'll be a lot of attacking stats going around. Hopefully, Suaalii can get over for a try or two.
Yeah, I think I wrote in the blog that it would be at the sunny SCG, which is going to be a challenge considering it's a nighttime game. If we're talking about preparation again. Can't talk you out of Suaalii. The other one I'd throw in is Tupu at under 500k.
Yep.
You know, left-hand side of the Roosters is going much better with Kiri back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joey Manu's on this list. I'm going to skip to him now. He's 10th. What are your thoughts on him? Because he does have that great matchup, but since he's moved to centre, he hasn't been anywhere near what he was at 5'8" and fullback. It's basically half the output.
If I had loads of trades, and I know that there are plenty of head-to-head players who do, then I would be getting Joey Manu to cover everyone else who's got Joey Manu because he could do anything against the West Tigers, and then I'd be trading him out for someone who's got an easier draw the week after.
Yep, fair enough. Isaac Thompson, he's still third on this list. Hasn't been named in the 17, so it doesn't look like he'll play. I said it yesterday, if he's not going to play, I'd prefer a genuine nuff who has dual position, whereas Isaac Thompson doesn't. He's only available at centre wing.
What do I say to that, Thomas? For once, you're right.
I'm right.
You're right.
Yes. Ruben Cotter, fourth most purchased player. Find this a little bit strange. I think you should be going for upside. I'd prefer someone like Suaalii with the upside as opposed to a safe guy like Cotter. Having said that, Cotter he's built up nicely after that return from injury. He's looking good, but it's a safe purchase as opposed to one of these guys who can get you 140 in a week.
It is safe. I mean, if you're going to go the heart attack option, I don't know about Suaalii, but I think David Fifita is the heart attack forward that you get instead of Cotter. That said, Cotter's was 55 in base last weekend in a team that was pretty soundly beaten by the Roosters. He does have attack in him. I wonder maybe some of our love for Cotter is that he was a great get at 300k, and we were all like, wow, this is amazing. Well, he doesn't, and he was amazing. Again, to stick with the same word in Origin. But I wouldn't talk anyone out of Cotter. I think he's a safe-ish 75 with upside, and they've got pretty good matchups.
Send any questions, your sledges, your comments. Rod Maroney has something to say to you. He says, is Rob on his way to a job interview? That shirt almost looks ironed.
It was ironed at 5 o'clock in the morning when I headed off to work, Rod. I'd also add, if we're going to talk about my appearance, I went to the doctor's on Monday to have that health checkup you get as an old man. You'll know about this in about 10 years' time. And other than saying, well, you're fat and you drink too much, she also looks at me and she goes, and you need a haircut. I 100% agree with you, you know, but is this where we get into it? Anyway, that's enough about
a doctor
me.
telling you that. Yeah. That's sensational. Rod also says, P.S. I'm also in the No Trades, No Stress Club.
Oh, it's great.
And thank you, Rob, for the de-stress.
Pleasure.
That's some quite nice comments coming in today.
It's the end. It's nearing the end. So, it's Stockholm syndrome.
Peter saying, will Nanai step up after 2 abysmal weeks? It's a good question. They've got the good matchup this week. It's the Warriors, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I think he probably will go well this week. But Nanai is one of these guys that relies on attacking stats. So you've got to take the good with the bad.
Oh, what's he scored? 15 tries or something like that? I mean, that's what he's going to do. He's not Cam Murray. He's not Mr. Reliable. He's more in the David Fafita zone. I think without being quite as explosive, but perhaps, certainly better under the kicks. So it's a risk. I mean, it's a risk, yeah.
Nathan Louis is asking, he's got 4 trades left.
Show off.
Who is a must for the run home? That's a pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah.
For me, I think Suwali this week. If you don't own Cameron Murray, obviously, you'd go for him. Suwali and Fafita are the 2 pods for this week, I think.
I think Fafita's the pod for the run home. The team that has a better draw than the Sharks and a better draw than the Cowboys is the Titans. So if you wanted to go crazy, and why not, get Fafita and get Brian Kelly and see what happens. Kelly. I mean, every game is going to be a roller coaster for you because Kelly's got a touch of the Dugans, right? Every time he gets tackled, he gets up, he's holding something, and then he goes and busts 3 more tackles.
The other guy I don't mind as well, and it's a real Hail Mary pod, but AJ Brimson was pretty good last week, scored that incredible try, and the weekly winner had AJ Brimson in their team as well.
And they've got a great draw.
Yep. JP Parker is asking, you guys consider player resting in the top 8 teams this time of year? Definitely. I think it happened last year. I think it'll happen again.
Yeah.
Although I feel like there's no club that's really flying into the finals.
Well,
so they might be a little bit reluctant to... No, yeah, but from 8th. They're still in 8th position.
They're flying into the
They're
finals.
flying in, but they're still in 8th position. So
the Roosters won't be resting.
I don't think they'll be resting. Or who knows, if they're locked into whatever position they're locked into, then they might just rest players.
I suppose the interesting one is that the Cows play the Panthers in the last round. Now, if they're both locked in at 1-2 and they can't move from there, then there's an incentive for both of them to roll out their New South Wales Cup teams, or Q Cup team in.
What have we got here? We've got Ben Hunt or Reynolds. Interesting. Look, to be honest, you're pretty keen on Reynolds, aren't you?
I've been impressed by A-Ray. Yeah, I keep talking about him as 2021 A-Ray, and 2022 Adam Reynolds is a different beast. He scored 100. When the Broncos score points, he's in it. I think he's a pod.
Ben Hunt is having an amazing season, and I think he still is favourite for the Dally M. He certainly was leading that competition when it went behind closed doors. It doesn't quite translate to SuperCoach for him. I think the main factor is that he doesn't kick goals.
It's a little bit like I can beat the under-8s at the beach sprint at the South Maroubra Nippers, right? I mean, I look pretty good against the under-8s, but you put me up against the under-10s, I get thrashed. Now, Benny Hunt is a very good player, but in the Dragons, he's exceptional.
Yes, that's very true. Very true. As a Dragons fan, Rod Moroney's on fire today. He's saying, thoughts on Tigers and Gold Coast in the final run? Avoid the spoon, play well for the new coach, and under pressure coach. When the pressure is off, I feel like teams can go well. It's happened with the Bulldogs since Barrett left. The Titans last week were pretty impressive against the Sea Eagles, and it was a crunch game for the Sea Eagles. You would have expected them to be up for it. So, yeah, I don't hate getting on the Titans particularly, and, well, that's why I've got David Fafita. And if I do get behind in a league, I may even put a sneaky C on David Fafita this week.
That's brave. I think we covered the Titans that you get. At the Tigers, I'm not so enthused. Adam Dwayne's the only one you'd consider, in my opinion.
Let's go through the most purchased players. 5th on the list, Alex Johnston. So people are backing a few tries for him. They've got a pretty tough run home. I don't know if he will be able to keep it up.
Tough run home, but he just does keep scoring tries.
Yes.
If you wanted, I'm not going to talk you out of Alex Johnston. Corey Oates is the other winger who just keeps scoring tries. Corey Oates is he's got a 68 average, 3-round, 5-round average or something. It's crazy.
He's the sort of player who can go on a massive run at stages. He's done it before plenty of times in SuperCoach.
And Xavier Coates was quoted, I think today, saying that Corey Oates is his childhood hero. Which I sit here and I always my job is to be a bit of a narc. So, that's what I embrace it.
You've made that your job, I think.
I have created
I don't know if anyone's
role.
ever actually put it in the job description. Rob must be a narc.
Be yourself. And so I do bag Corey Oates, but, it's interesting when, kids talk about the fact that Corey Oates is their childhood hero. Yeah.
Joseph Tapine, so he's the sixth most purchased player after being one of the most sold players previously. For me, the issue is he's carrying a rib injury, so how many minutes does he play? Does he need a needle? Look, I wouldn't be rushing in to buy Joe Tapine.
Oh, I wouldn't, but as an owner, I'm bloody glad he's playing. If he plays over 50 minutes, I think he scores over 70 points.
Ruben Garrick's on the list again. He was here last week too. It's not the easiest run home, and they've got the Sharkies this week, I believe, which is not a good matchup for them. But certainly Garrick is a position leader at centre wing this year, so I couldn't talk people out of it. But having said that, I don't think he necessarily has amazing matchups coming up.
No, but again, I think it could be people covering, thinking they've got pods elsewhere, so they're going to start covering their opponents, guys that have high upsides.
Cameron Munster, he's been on this list for about 5 or 6 weeks since Origin, been absolutely killing it and playing at fullback. I know he's been named at 5'8", but we expect him to play at fullback.
Yeah, sorry, doctor was calling. Literally was.
Checking in on that haircut.
100% agree, 100% with Munster. I prefer him at fullback. It's interesting that they've named him there again for a second time, and then they're going to play, what was it, Ducks and Drakes we were talking about?
Ducks,
which we learned
it's actually not the correct
meaning
of.
Well, you can use it, but it's skimming stones.
Skimming stones.
So I've lost my train of thought here. Val Holmes, should we talk about Val Holmes?
Yeah, Holmes. So he's got the good matchup this week against the Warriors, then 2 really tough ones to end the year. So I think if you're bringing Val in, it could be a case of 1-week wonder.
I agree. Yeah.
Yep. But I do like it for this matchup this week and potential VC or C option as well. And then Joey Manu, who we've already been through. Let's take some questions. What have we got here? I'm going to go right to the top. 1 trade left, still have Cleary. That's from JP Parker. Who would you trade Cleary to?
Well, I think Nico Hines, I assume he's already got Nico Hines.
Munster is another good option as well.
Yeah, and we talked about your pods. I mean, A-Ray's your pod halfback, in my opinion. Probably a chance.
Lots of questions about the cheese, actually. Brandon Smith was pretty good on the weekend. It was probably his first good game of the year, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, no, he had a couple of good ones. Yeah.
One of his best games of the year.
Yeah, but interesting, named on the bench, this week, and with King to start. Look, I think the cheese can flatter to deceive sometimes. He barges over for a try, and he looks really engaged, and then he'll do something silly and get sent off. Hopefully that all stops next year when he's in the Roosters system.
At the Roosters system, they'll sort him out. Is it worth going May to Mulatalo? This is from Lachlan, or risk a pod like Gagai with a good run home for the Knights?
I wouldn't be buying into the Knights at all.
Yeah,
I mean, he could be late for the bus, and that's him out for 2 weeks. You never know.
You can hang out in a toilet cubicle and stay in the team.
Can't be late for the bus.
Can't be late for the bus.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be going Gagai, but May to Mulatalo. We've spoken about Mulatalo a little bit on this show. I like him as a pod, and he scored a try on the weekend, didn't he? And got 57 points. Look, I think with the run home that he's got, I think he's one of the better pods floating around. Having said that, I'd prefer Sawali for this week.
Yeah, I've absolutely destroyed Mulatalo, and I apologise for that. But again, everything he said's right. The Sharks draw is good. They're scoring lots of points. Sure, maybe Moylan back is good. Moylan, first half of the season was great for Mulatalo. He was passing. Moylan, second half of the season, he's using the outside as dummies and going himself. Well, let's see what we get when he comes back.
Let's go through the most sold players. Taylor May is number 1 on the list. So the news with him is that he is in the reserves list, so he could play this week. So it's not an urgent sell, but I still think that Panthers are a team that you should be getting off. I really don't like the attacking upside at that club without Cleary and without Jerome Luai.
Unfortunately, I agree.
CSC for Talakai has missed out again, so I completely understand why people are selling this week. Jacob Carraz, he's a guy who's made all his money. You can cash him in.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac Targo, again, the Panthers. I agree with selling Panthers, attacking players at the Panthers.
Oh, I do, but I'll be playing Targo this week. Or Tungo.
Yep.
Tungo.
Jason Taumalolo, one of the most sold players. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I suppose people have got the Cotter fears. You know, they're trading him in for Cotter and thinking maybe that his minutes are reduced. They preserve Taumalolo a little going into the finals. He hasn't got the explosion of, say, Cotter does, or even Fafita does, or Murray does. So, yeah, I can get around it.
Yeah, I could get around Taumalolo to Fafita or Cameron Murray, for example. DCE, one of the most sold players after being one of the most purchased last week. It didn't work out for him last week against the Titans. Against the Titans. I was really close to bringing him in and backed out at the last minute, and I'm thankful that I did.
What can I say? I agree.
Yep.
Manly...
I talked the whole thing down on the show and said I'm still going to bring him in, and then went for Matt Burton instead, who completely stunk it up.
Manly and the Knights are two teams I don't want to be part of at the moment.
Jason Saab's got the ACL, unfortunately. Big blow for him. Ezra Mam is an interesting one because it's a tough matchup this week, but he does have one good matchup.
Might be the Knights off the top of my head.
I think you could play him in that round, but that's the only round you play him. So you play him 1 out of 3 heading forward.
Yep.
And then Aloka Atu is one of the more sold players as well.
Manly rule.
And Nathan Cleary makes sense if you're just getting around to it now. Let's take some questions. What is a salvageable end of season score? Top 10K, top 5K, or top 1K? Well, play it safe and finish top 10K, or go for broke. Look, you have to go for broke. 10K. Well, it depends how you finished in the past.
Sure. I start every year with a goal of top 1K. I know I'm not smart enough or good enough to, be challenging those guys in the top 100. It's not my go. Top 1K is my goal. I think anytime you finish there, you've done well.
Yep, particularly these days with so much SuperCoach information out there. Who is the player with the biggest upside this week? That's from Jaw. I think, Fafita and Sawali.
I think it's Fafita.
Thoughts on Drinkwater? So good matchup, same as Valentine Holmes that we were talking about before. Great matchup this week, then 2 tough ones to finish.
Yeah, I think I prefer Munster over Drinky.
Yep. And look, that's about it. Not that many questions coming through. I think people have set their line up for sudden death finals and just sitting back. Oh, they don't have trades. No trades, no stress. As Rob says.
Margarita time.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. We'll catch you for the Countdown Show, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We'll see you then.
Cheers.